Good evening, this is Kilo Charlie Niner Uniform Delta X-Ray. My name is Matt and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM activity in this area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. We listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode where possible. If you cannot transmit in AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency a couple kcs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call sign in standard phonetics. Again, this is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Good evening, Matt, W9JCC, and I don't know if I am hearing, but the audio seems a little rusty over there. W9JCC.
All right. Is that better?
Much better.
All right. I guess I apologize for that. Do we have any more? Well, recognizing and welcoming Frank, W9JCC. Thank you, Frank. Do we have any more check-ins? Come now, please.
Whiskey 9 Tango Oscar Foxtrot.
And there we have Gary, W9TOF. Welcome, Gary, and thank you for joining the net. Do we have anybody else?
Whiskey Bravo 9. Bravo, Whiskey Papa.
And recognizing and welcoming Dave, WB9BWP. Do we have anybody else? All right, none heard so far. I got to keep an eye on my transmit power. It drops out once in a while, and I have to retune. The tuning on this radio is incredibly touchy, and I don't know why, but recently it's gotten worse. I'm not sure if that's some kind of increased series resistance somewhere or something. Anyway, summer is kind of winding down, I guess. State Fair is happening. Went to State Fair on Sunday. And next weekend, this upcoming weekend, we have the MRAC and combined, I guess, MAARS picnic. Not sure if I'll be going or not at this point. We will see. And I'm sure there's other things I had planned to talk about, but I don't know where my notepad went that I write this stuff down on. So, while I try to think about that, we'll go to the top of the list. Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
KC9UDX, W9JCC. And yeah, your audio is fantastic now, Matt. What a big difference. I wonder what you did to fix that. But sounds good, 35/9 over here. And State Fair, we haven't gone in a few years. Wayne and I used to go almost every year, and especially when they had the buses that ran at the stop and rides there. Yeah, there was one just probably 5 minutes from our house here, right by the interstate. And we'd take the bus, and that always worked out really well. And nothing too much having to talk about tonight. I put a new front hook on the John Deere that holds the deck up. I don't know what happened to the one that runs there. When Gary said cut the grass last time before he left town, it finished, and the deck kind of fell to the ground, and we couldn't find it anywhere, so I ordered a new one on Amazon. I think it was like $14-15, and put it on, and it seems to work, although it's not aligned the way it's supposed to be. It's a little cockeyed sideways, and the front is a little lower than it should be. But I cut the grass with it a couple of days ago, and it seemed to cut just fine, and I didn't see any irregularities between cuts, between rows. So I guess if it keeps working okay, I will just leave it alone. Anyway, I guess that's it for this one. That back sheet comes to net. This is W9GACC.
All right, thank you, Frank. Fine business. And excuse me. All I did to fix my audio is not really fix my audio at all. I retuned the final. Like I was saying before, the tuning on this amplifier built into this radio is extremely touchy, and once in a while I'm right on the edge of working and not working, and I have to readjust it a little bit, so I got to keep an eye on it. I did have this problem in the past, and it seems to have come back here lately, and I'm not exactly sure why. I had this radio apart and did a little bit of work, but I don't think I did anything that would have affected that. And yeah, on the tractor parts, you will find that the hard way when you least expect it, and then wonder what the heck it is. I think I've been down that road. And next we have Gary, W9TOF from KC9UDX.
This is W9TOF. Good evening, Matt and the net. I'm still running on the SR42 1962 Allicrafters. This time I have the right crystal in it, though. 45.7 crystal. Glad you found it on eBay, Matt, and I promptly bought it. It came from Kenosha. Italian Kenosha sells crystal. So if I ever need another one, I can look them up again. Some years ago, a hand gave me a Siltronics 1011D. I wanted to play around with one, and I had mentioned it on the air, and he had one in the closet, and doing nothing, he just ignored it. So I didn't get a power cord for it, so I got a stitch drone plug cord, and I had a nice 3-prong power cord. So I built the power cord, and I had it running. It's all on original parts. I put just a wire in the antenna connector, and on 11 meters I heard a couple of 11-meter guys on there, on AM of all things. But 10 meters, that just seems to be a perpetually dead band. I didn't hear anything from one end to the other. Of course, that was just a wire coming out of the back of it. Anyways, it's kind of fun to fool around with that old gear. I'll just give it back to Net Control, KC9UDX, W9TOF.
All right, thank you, Gary. Fine business and all that. Glad you got that crystal and got it working. It's sounding nice. We got to get you a microphone element. I did a little bit of searching. I could not find anybody selling elements, so probably have to find another microphone or do something different, or just live with that one the way it is. Your audio is fine, just a little bit on the quiet end, but nothing objectionable. Maybe a little hard for some of the guys farther away to hear you, but we'll see. We'll find out what everybody says. And 10 meters has been pretty hit or miss lately. At least I don't hardly ever hear anything on 10 meters, which is a little bit surprising, but that's the way it goes. So it doesn't surprise me that you couldn't hear anything with just the wire sticking out the back. I have a couple of 10 meter antennas here, nothing's hooked up. I can use my big HF antenna for 10 meters, of course. But I don't get a whole lot of time to come down here and listen to that stuff anyway. So for all I know, 10 meters is very active when I'm not here. And 11 meters does seem to have a little bit more activity than it did in the years past. And surprisingly, pretty clean activity compared to what I used to hear, which is a good thing, I guess. And I'll give you a signal report, Gary. You are a 5 on a 0 to 10 scale. And Frank is, of course, a 10 off the top of the scale, and Dave will find out if I get a chance to switch the meter over. And next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll start with signal, I guess. Yeah, Matt, once you retuned and things, you get a great signal here. Maybe the cleanest and strongest that I've actually heard. Probably, I'll say F7, F8 down here. Frank's a little lower. I seem to recall most times you two are pretty much the same. So either the path is really right between my house and yours, Matt, or that tweaking really did the job. Gary, I can hear sounds and maybe a word every once in a while. I know somebody's in there and that kind of a thing, but can't really make out what he's saying. And yeah, when you were doing the opening there, you sounded great, and then I couldn't tell if you started going off frequency or not. And since I've got this in a memory, I'm quick pushing buttons to get it into the VFO and start tuning around. But by then, Frank checked in and told you about the issue. Let's see, 10 meter stuff you guys were talking about. I probably haven't really done anything other than try to hit the Friday night net when I can, and in the spring, whatever major contests were popping up. I will say that during those contests, I probably had more 10 meter contacts than I've had for a few years. But I haven't really done any, just cruising the band kind of thing to see what's going on over there. I do see in spotting software here, and they were talking about it last night on the Mosey Net. It seems to be annual, a special event station, WAT, I think they may have a couple of other calls too, for the world's largest teapot. So that's kind of like the ultimate in, let's find a reason for a special event station. I forget where that is offhand. I want to say Ohio, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. And the other thing that came up to us on our state fair, we haven't been for a few years. And yeah, we would always take the buses too. Park and ride, not far really from where I am. They started I haven't looked to see what they've got running for state fair. They started the buses again during Summerfest, but they weren't doing all of the park and ride like they did in the past. They only did one north and one south. So, we'll see what that county sales tax increase does for that. Anyway, that's, I guess, good enough for this round. So we'll send it back tonight. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I guess that's the second time I ever heard somebody mention about the sales tax increase. I haven't put any thought into it. I think that's a really bad idea for the county. And the world's largest teapot. I've never heard of that. Surprised it's not in Minnesota or someplace. But I guess it could be anywhere. And that's I guess an old-timey Americana kind of thing. So I'll have to look that one up, I guess. And there does seem to be a tunnel between me and you tonight. I'm getting you at a 6, where I think normally you're a 5. And I've got one other time here where you were like an 8, and I don't know why. And I guess other times you've been a 6 too. So I don't know, maybe 6 is normal. Maybe 5 was abnormal. But anyway, the signal is up from last month, and recent months, I guess. I didn't do anything to the receiver, so it won't be that. I did lubricate the dial and the tuning knob, which made a huge difference. I can actually tune around receiving now and not have to worry about the dial getting stuck. That's what used to happen. I would tune off frequency a little bit to hear something, and then I couldn't get back on frequency. But that problem is alleviated. And I have never looked into taking a bus to State Fair. I used to have season tickets to the Brewers, and I investigated taking a bus from my house to go to a Brewer game one time, and it would have taken me all day, and I wouldn't have had a ride home. I can walk about 3/4 of a mile from my house to a Waukesha bus stop, which would take me to a stop where there's a Milwaukee bus, I think probably Gerke's Corners or someplace, and then go from there. But completely not feasible to go to Miller Park. And this was long before COVID or anything like that, so I guess buses would have been more common back then. Can't even imagine what it's like now, probably not even doable. And I never really looked into doing that for State Fair. Of course, I could drive to a park and ride if they could do that. I've thought about going to a bar or someplace in West Dallas, but I wouldn't be saving a whole lot if I did that. And we are at the bottom of the list. Do we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net? Come now, please.
Is it time for 2 a.m.? I believe so. This is MFSE.
And N9CXK. This is Kilo Sierra, Niner, Quebec.
All right, got 3. Excuse me, 3 more. You guys are trying to break a record here. Well, we're missing one tonight. Lorelei did not want to participate, but I will say we do recognize and welcome N9FSE Steve, N9CXK Carol, and KS9Q Jim. Thank you guys for joining the net. Do we have anybody else? Come now, please. All right, hearing none. First we'll go to Steve, N9FSE from KC9UDX.
Oh, we got that's one more thing. At least I remembered one thing this week. This month. I wanted to bring the crimper to recrimp this mic connector, but plugged into the back at the main part of the radio. So hopefully it behaves tonight. I did bring the filter along. I threw that in the headphone bag, and supposed to notch out out of the business section of the VHF high band here. So far so good. I'm happy with what I'm hearing so far. And of course, Matt's the usual good self. Rig is great, big signal. I'm hearing okay about S9 over here.
power level 2 on the big stick. And it's outstanding that Gary could find a crystal for here. I wonder if they made one up or if this guy had one in his collection. That's pretty crazy, but just amazing as well. So good on you for that. See what everybody else has. And now, speaking of bus rides, if anybody wants to ride a bus, I guess they're looking for hams for walking areas, and they'll keep buses connected for Irish Fest. So a few hours of riding the bus, you can get in there, I guess. I don't know what other perks they got, but I think they got a few for the hams, so that's kind of nice. I wonder if checking your dead time was during the flare on Saturday or not, but there we go. We'll set it back up to that. Hopefully Rick's behaving tonight. This is MNFSE. Over.
All right, thank you, Steve. So far your microphone is holding up. I do have a couple of those crimpers here, but I don't think mine are any good either. I'd have to invest in a new one. At least I had a lot of trouble a little while ago making up an Ethernet cable, which was ridiculous. I'm not sure if it's my crimpers or if at some point I must have bought some connectors on Amazon, because I've never ever had so much trouble. And that crystal that Gary's using, we found it on eBay, and it seems like somebody pulled it out of a radio very similar to what Gary's using, because it was exactly the right crystal. I think that radio, if I recall, has a 6 times multiplier, so it would have been 145.7 divided by 6, whatever that is. My calculator is missing along with my notepad. So I don't think there'd be another one available. But Gary said the guy is in Kenosha, which that is surprising. And who knows what else he has. And my calculator just returned, so I will I will punch it in here. 24.283 is what that crystal must be, if I'm remembering all this right. And it sure would be nice to do that thing for Irish Fest. I've always wanted to do that. Unfortunately, I can't commit to doing things like that with my work schedule. It's very difficult for me to commit to doing the 2 or 3 things a month that I already do. So, one of these years, if things calm down at work, maybe I'll be able to do that. And next we'll go to Carol and 9CXK from KC9UDX.
KC9UDX and the bunch and 9CXK. Well, I'm happy to say that I remembered the nets earlier today, and got home, got things prepared, just got a little busy outside. This time of year, I'm usually outside until dark every night, but thought I could run in here and catch up with everybody. We always drove to the Hales Corners Park and Ride, got on the bus. I think that was Summerfest, and went straight to Summerfest. Really not a time problem at all. It was an express bus right from Hales Corners straight down to Summerfest. So that was pretty wonderful. I think they have something like that for State Fair, but I'm not sure. Let's look around. What do I have to report? I haven't done any radio stuff for quite a long time, actually. Status quo here, but putting lots of plants in the ground outside. I've probably done several dozen plants outside, and we got our pond into the ground, and I got the fish up from the basement. They've been down there almost 2 years now in the stock tank. got them up and got them into the pond, and when I did that, one of them he just went straight to the bottom. So I got him, and I took a look, and his eyes were okay, and his gills were okay, and so I kind of gave him fish CPR for about an hour and a half. And he finally started to breathe fairly quickly, but didn't move for a long, long time, and then he started to wiggle and move a little bit. And I left him sit on the shelf in the pond overnight, and in the morning he was back to normal, eating and swimming, and we've had those fish about, my wife says, 17 years now. And they were tiny goldfish, right? They were the 59-cent fish you get to feed your piranhas. And we bought those fish and we popped them in the pond. They've been in there ever since, going to the basement every winter and back out in the summer. And they are literally as big as my hand now. It'd be a nice, something I would like to catch in the lake here. They're big enough. So I don't know what happened to the guy. It was like I conked him on the head, but didn't do that. Just couldn't move enough in the bag, in the plastic bag, to get enough oxygen. I don't know, but he came back to life 100%. He's in there swimming and eating and having a great time again. So I would have felt pretty terrible if he had conked out after living for 2 years in the basement while I got my act together. So that was the segment so far this week. We're at the financial planner tonight, and he says, I don't know what you guys are worrying about. He says, here's what we're going to do. We won't have any trouble, and we're going to end up, and he has us projected to live until we're 90, and then at that point we'll have lots and lots more money than we do now. So go figure. I don't understand it all, but I'm happy to hear it. He says, you could have retired years ago. And I said, well, yeah, I kind of like working, so I'm not going to retire right away here, but probably within a year, probably from now. That'll be a change of pace. But he explained everything and how it works, and it sounds pretty doable. I just won't be getting around like I used to, that's all. So, that's all I got for right now. Enjoying the weather, but could use the rain. 59 UDX tonight.
All right, thank you, Carol. And I wonder if that fish went into shock. That can happen, though I don't know what you would have done to cause that. Yeah, it sounds, like you said, it sounds like you hit him over the head. And that's interesting that you had those fish that long. I don't know that I've ever heard of anybody doing that, taking fish from an outdoor pond and keeping them indoors. That makes a lot of sense, though. And I haven't been doing a whole lot of stuff radio-wise either that I can recall within the past month. So it's hard for me to remember what I talked about last month or didn't. I think I mentioned that I built a couple of tape measure antennas for my kids. I never finished those. I've got to put feed lines on them, some kind of attenuator, a matching stub, and a way to physically attach a radio mounted on there. I'll have to stop at the candy store and get some feed line, I guess. I don't have anything appropriate here, although it's just for receive. Now everybody else in the MRAC that built these things built this fancy 4 megahertz shift attenuator, and I'm not convinced that that's necessary. I could be totally wrong. But I wonder if a rheostat or something like that wouldn't work just as well. We had a situation Lorelei was participating in a fox hunt last month, and we had a situation where that attenuator did not work. And so I unplugged the feed line and left it partially connected, and that actually worked better than the attenuator. And considering we are only receiving, I guess it seems to me that just about any way to attenuate that signal is going to work. But I could be wrong. I'm not real experienced in that kind of thing. And with that, we'll go to Jim, KS9Q from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt, very good. This is KS9Q, and I don't know how I got wind of the fact that it's the second Tuesday. Maybe I picked it up off of Facebook. I thought, hey, I need to punch into the net. I tuned in on the Kenwood TS700A last time around, but this radio has some issues as far as reception, and it's not really making power, so this is going to need a teardown and some TLC and a little bit of troubleshooting. So that's a winter project, but it is kind of a cool little radio. I wouldn't mind getting it in operating condition. Just kind of got that retro look to it. And otherwise, don't have a whole ton to report. We just got back from a few days in California. We were in southern Cal in the La Jolla area, and so we got to hang out on the beach and hang with some sea lions and just kind of take it all in. It was an enjoyable experience, but man, it was a pricey area. Everything's expensive. Gas is expensive. Food's expensive. Hotels are expensive. But that is California. And man, I concur as far as the 10 meters has been really hit or miss, and mostly miss when I tuned in. But I would expect from where we're at the solar cycle, I would hope that we'd be getting more than we're seeing. But I don't know. This has been kind of a weird cycle. So with that, I'm gonna be a one and done tonight. I'm gonna go upstairs and hang with Sue and just spend a little time with her, and we'll throw her back to net. Good hearing everybody. Picking up just about everyone. I can't hear Gary, but everybody else I've got at least a degree of copy on. And I'll say 7-3, and we'll listen for a bit, and then we'll bow out. This is KS9Q back tonight.
All right, thank you, Jim. Fine business. I haven't been to Southern California in 20 years. In 2003, I went to Los Angeles for a week for work. And I did not have to pay for anything because it was through work, so I don't recall what the prices were like. But yeah, I can imagine it had to be expensive. I did not too much care for that area, although where we were, the weather was nice. We're in one of those little microclimate areas where it's 65 degrees nonstop. And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, we are the second Tuesday of every month. I don't know that that matters these days, but back when I started doing the net, it was very hard to get people to join the net because everybody was doing other activities on all other days, and the second Tuesday was the least active day for everybody out of all the other days in every month. So that's why we're on the second Tuesday. And we haven't changed since. And I kind of hate to change now, even if it made sense, just because it would be hard for me to get out of that schedule. We've been doing this for 10 years. Or maybe 9 years and 10 months or something like that. I haven't exactly figured that out. I keep meticulous logs, but I seem to be missing some, which doesn't quite make sense to me. Anyway, thank you for popping in. I will say 7-3 to you. And we are again at the bottom of the list, still for the first time. So we'll see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. All right. Hearing none. Not only has this solar cycle been strange, the last 2 and maybe 3 have been strange. This one and the last one for sure. I don't exactly recall the one prior. I was paying a lot of attention, but I was not into amateur radio at the time, so it didn't matter that much to me. And yeah, we should have a lot more 10-meter activity right now. But that's the way it is, and part of it is most of us not getting on the air, I guess. Every once in a while when 10 meters is dead, this happens almost every time I listen around and the band seems dead. There's somebody that pops in crystal clear from somewhere for a short while. And that happened the last time I turned the radio on, and I was going to try to contact the other station, but he got a DX pileup, which was kind of interesting because the band was dead otherwise. And then he faded out before I could get a chance to get in. Anyway, one other comment. Carol, you mentioned going to the park and ride and taking the bus. Something that just occurred to me now. There's all those bars in West Allis. I don't know if they still all do this, but they used to always let you park there and take their bus to State Fair. It occurred to me while you were talking that the bar just down the road here, it used to be called the Coach House, and I can't remember what it was before that, when it was something that was there for a very long time. Coach House wasn't there long, but it's now Kelly's Bleachers, and they're one of those places that offers rides, or at least did in the past. I wonder if they do now, and if they do from the location here, that would be worth looking into. Anyway, we'll go back to the top of the list, Frank W9JCCO, and I'm losing myself here. There we go. So hopefully I didn't miss out too much there, but Frank W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Yeah, the last minute or two there, you had the D2 problem, but right at the end you missed it. Dipped your final again, so it sounded good now. And this is W9JCC, and we'll say 73 is the Jim if you're still listening over there. And La Jolla, I think I've been there quite a few years ago. I was out there for work, and if I'm not mistaken, it's just a little north of San Diego, but the road going by there was just, roll cars. Traffic was just unbelievable. I can remember that for sure. And as far as hanging out with the walruses, they kind of had their own spot down by the rocks, as near as I can remember. As far as Gary, I had a little trouble copying him about the same as Dave. I could hear him all the time, and he was also one of the best, and sometimes the altimeter would go below it, right down to zero. But I could hear him the whole time, and could pick out some phrases here and there. 10 meters has been spotty. I usually join the 10 meter number on Fridays, and occasionally we'll get some stations from out east, but it happens maybe once a month. What I'm really disappointed in is there's 15 years. That's one of my favorite bands, and I've got a good antenna for 15, and I just not been able to use it. And maybe I don't look on there or listen at the right time, but I would like 15 to pick up a little bit. Stand by. And I was just wondering if that crystal that Gary got, I think he said he got it in Kenosha. I wonder if he got it at Chester's down there. And if he did, Chester Electronics, well, they're on Roosevelt Road now down there, at least last I can recall. But when I was living in Kenosha and going to high school and just out of college, they were on 52nd Street. And I can remember when I bought my Ranger kit, Johnson Ranger, I carried it about 2 miles all the way home in the box, all the parts. And right now I can just barely lift it off the 75 84 here. Can't believe I carried that thing all that way. It's probably over a mile, maybe closer to 2. But I remember when I set it down and I went to open the door, my hand just kept rising. It was hard to grab the knobs. See, other than that, the garden's doing so-so. I left the zucchinis and cucumbers. I mean, I already made 32 rows of zucchini bread. I was going to stop there. I'd call it quits on that and make stir fries from now on, but I don't have the rest of the ingredients coming out yet. We got sun tomatoes coming. The onions don't look too good. I picked one that was very small. So the peppers, there's 1 or 2 decent ones out of about 6 plants. So I would say it's hasn't been the greatest year, although the zucchinis and cucumbers did real well. Anyway, not too much more on this one. Oh, by the way, thanks to Steve there for giving us QST. I could hear him in the background there. I hope the sub-receiver on the west side was Peter, and could hear him making the announcement for the net. So thanks for doing that, Steve. Anyway, back on up. I remain JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. And I have to tune up again. I don't have the fan on this radio that I normally do because I've piled up a bunch of other equipment here and I can't reach the wires for the fan, so I can't turn the fan on. I should probably take some time here to move something out of the way so I can hook that fan up. I'm sure that's why I'm having the issue I'm having now. This thing's getting pretty warm. It doesn't really matter, but it's going to cause this problem, I guess. What I really need to do is wire up that fan to the radio so that I don't have to disconnect and reconnect it all the time. Well, if this keeps up this bad, I may have to switch radios. I'll just have to watch the meter, I guess. And I guess I'd talk a little bit longer here, but I'm going to see if I can find that, see if I can reach that fan wire. And we'll turn it over to Gary, W9TOF from KC9UDX.
And this is W9TOF, and talking right into the microphone, so hopefully I'm modulating the thing enough that I can be understood. And Frank, I don't think that crystal came from Chester. I looked it up on eBay, and Vintage is the name of the guy selling it. I think he sells a lot of radio parts. I have to look up and see what his other items are that he's selling. But the crystal looked like it was never in a radio. Pretty clean when I got it, and I just popped it in, and away I went. This old SR42 is still working. The electrolytic can, after it's on for about an hour, it feels a little warm, but not hot. I think that might be normal. I'm always worried about these old electrolytics blowing up in my face. I could hear Carol just fine. I could not hear Dave nor Jim, JF92. I could not hear him. Anyway, 7-3, everyone. Thank you for letting me get the net. Hopefully, maybe I can find a better microphone for this radio by next month. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you, Gary. I'll tune up again here. I will say thank you, Gary, in case you couldn't hear me before, which you probably couldn't. I wonder if you have an amplified, one of these amplified microphones. I've got a whole shelf full of them here somewhere. And you should be able to get one of those to work with that. It's a matter of getting the gain on the amplifier just right and always having a good 9-volt battery in there, but I have done that in the past. Before I got this microphone, I did get the fan turned on, and you guys can probably appreciate this. There's a wafting smell of tube radio coming in from there now. And the radio is cooling off, which is probably affecting my tuning. But that's okay, I just got to watch the meter, I guess. And Gary, I think you said 7.3, which means you may be signing out. So, if you are, I will say 7.3 to you. If not, you are welcome to come back around the next time around if we get around that far again. And, oh, what else was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say, hopefully if Jim is still there, probably not. I neglected to give everybody signal reports. Before, Jim was a 9, Carol, you're a 7.5, and looking at my logs, you range from 6 to 7 normally. 6.5 sometimes. Steve, you're an 8, which is pretty normal. Dave, you're a 6. I think I mentioned that already. One of the things I've noticed as long as we've been doing this is that everybody's signal is a little bit different every month. Band conditions are very strange, something you would never notice on FM, and probably wouldn't pay attention to on sideband. I don't know. I haven't done that much sideband on 2 meters, a little bit. Not much. I don't find that particularly interesting like AM. Excuse me. And with that, we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Well, I got 73 to Gary, if he did. I didn't hear anything on that round. And to Jim, if he still has any receiving going on over there. I looked up the world's largest teapot thing. That's in West Virginia. And there's even a picture of it. I don't know. It's big. Definitely big. It's kind of a 2-story teapot, I guess. Anyway. And I also took a look about the process of State Fair, and where was that here? They didn't want to admit to it. You got to find the right place. And it basically says, too bad, due to staffing shortages, MCTS is unable to provide special service of freeway flyers to the Wisconsin State Fair due to staffing shortages. And under Waukesha County Shuttle Service, it says the State Fair shuttle between Waukesha County and the Wisconsin State Fair will not be operating for the 2023 Wisconsin State Fair due to a driver shortage. So anyway, that's why we have very low unemployment. Because, never mind. Anyway, and the Irish Fest thing, Roger I can never remember it's called AB9 something. There's an MRAC member. Roger knows the guy in charge, I think, over at Irish Fest, and started that last year, the year before. Let's see, hey, could you help us out here? Because they actually went out and contracted their own buses, since Milwaukee County wasn't doing it, to hit the park and rides and I guess some hotels downtown. So anyway, that's what that is. The ZPRS they're putting on each bus and a ham to ride along. A few details or a few more things on the picnic Saturday. Everybody is welcome to attend. The club provides the main course, and people are asked to bring, whatever auxiliary food items. Also, probably Carter, W9ERR. I don't know how many of you guys know him. He's a very new hand. He's one of the net controls on the rookie net. But he is the trained barbecue judge. Actually, I take classes in that. He travels around just within the state, I guess. Anyway, he's also cooking something, barbecuing something. So that'll be at the picnic. Technically, it started as a Mars picnic, and some years ago, when last I was president of the LBRY, I negotiated with other days, and we said, hey, let's do this together, and we'll split the cost. I could add some comments regarding the current leadership, but anyway, we're still working together on the picnic. And besides being a picnic, there will be fox hunting. We're talking about having 3 transmitters scattered throughout the entire park. It's a Greenfield Park, by the way, picnic area number 2. Coming on 124th Street. It's closest between Greenfield and Lincoln. And there's also the famous HT toss. And Steve is one of the past winners of that. And there may be an HS station there too. I'm not sure. Starts at noon, goes till you go home. Or until the raccoons come out and you want to leave. And I have seen them come out in droves. Oh, I changed the timer, but it shows that I can still talk way too much. But that's a good spot to turn it back in that. This is WB9 BWB.
All right, thank you, Dave. My radio has cooled off significantly, so maybe the tuning will be a little more stable now. I have thought about biking to the picnic. Wouldn't be able to bring too much for food or drink. Probably just enough for us to drink. To stay hydrated biking. But Greenfield Park isn't a terrible bike ride from here. And I looked up the Chester Teapot. 14 feet in height by 14 feet in diameter. It's at the site of a former popular amusement park in Hancock County, West Virginia, city of Chester. So I guess they must have probably built that for the amusement park that used to be there. There seem to be a lot of derelict amusement parks in that part of the country. I guess. I probably wouldn't know that if it wasn't for the internet, I guess. We don't have too much of that around here. Other than, of course, you know, Bonanza isn't around anymore, and some of those other the 59 Theater track and whatever else go-kart stuff we used to have around here. And I was going to comment on something else, but I neglected to write that down. Frank, I forgot to say before, I think, unless I'm forgetting it, I did say it. 15 meters has been pretty active. Oh, my tuning's going out again. 15 meters has been pretty active whenever I've been listening. Made quite a few contacts on 15 meters here and there. So maybe I'm listening at different times than you are, but that's one of the things I've noticed is pretty much any time I turn on the radio during daylight hours, there's traffic on 15 meters. Could be I'm just there at the right time. And next we'll go to Steve N9FSE from KC9UDX. I'm pretty sure I'm getting a signal out, but not positive. N9FSE from KC9UDX.
What a man said.
Well, Steve probably can't hear me, but I think, Steve, you're having a microphone cable issue. KC9UDX.
What? You're both. But they're definitely audio, sort of beat up like audio quality a little bit. Renegade, Wisconsin State Fair, because it was a lot cheaper, but I don't know, they probably have higher quality ones out at the fair. And Dave Rogers called saying, I think it's AC9DT, I gotta remember Bluetooth, I guess, or something like that. Hope to make it out to the picture. Maybe I'll bring my Fox Hunt supplies, and who's building one? Somebody, that was back, telling us about it. They also said anywhere, I think it works really good when you've got keys for overload. They have that offset. But I do have one, and I think it works really slick. And the string there, yeah, I want the HT toss, we got a gold. He helped to prove it. It won't keep it up on the display in the living room. And yeah, you can also attest to the raccoons and one or several HF stations sometimes that they have picnics. Those I'm wearing AC Mars picnic, and people get there after the AM fest, I'm thinking. And then Jim's out of California. Sounds like a neat expedition, because I don't know, you mentioned taking any radios, as I recall. There's running through the list of my additions. And yeah, I think that instead of wafting tube smells here, man, we got wafting wafting mouse smells, which aren't so nice, but at least it's well diluted here. There's enough to chew on for that, and I don't have a timer on here, so let this radio cool down. LIFSE, I'm a big stick on the 706, Part 2G. LIFSE, over.
All right, thank you, Steve. There we go. Thank you, Steve. We picked you up. You said something about Chippewa Valley. Prior to that, we got 2 or 3 words. You were cutting out in and out, and after that, you were kind of fading in and out with noise. But we got most of what you said after that. And, talking about carrying that radio home. Yeah, Frank, I can't even imagine carrying a Johnson Ranger for a mile or more, let alone 2 miles. The only thing that I can equate to that is I was probably 10 years old when I angered my parents by bringing home from school a 19-inch TV, the non-portable kind. And that was close to 4 miles, I think. But I sort of balanced the TV on the saddle of my bike and pushed the bike, which was still quite a feat. But nothing like carrying something heavy. I didn't do that. Can't even imagine carrying something that heavy for any kind of distance. And I was going to comment on something else, but I didn't write anything down because I was too busy trying to listen. So, with that, we'll go next to Carol and 9CXK from KC9UDX.
KC9UDX and 9CXK. Before I forget, can I go direct with Steve for a second?
Absolutely.
Alright, and 9FSC and 9CXK. You remember at South Milwaukee, that guy parked next to you bought an antenna from me, and he wanted the matcher for it. I did find one of those matchers, but when I plugged his call sign in, like at QRZ, there's no record at all, so I don't know who he is.
He is N9YNU, Irv, and he lives in practically in the Ryan Road in Oak Creek there.
Oh, YNU. Okay, I thought it was YNA. Okay, we'll try that. That should be okay then. I'll find out. Very good. And yeah, Steve, it was kind of interesting because every once in a while, Matt would start to talk, and then I could hear you in there with him. It it was quite weird. And then you were just quiet. So we got, I don't know, we were quiet. You were kind of off the air for a minute or, I don't know, a minute and a half, something. Not to worry, we caught it. We caught everything important. Anyway. And I really don't have a whole lot to talk about, but you guys know that on Saturday is also the Racine Free Fest at the dog park down there on, whatever it is, 4 Mile Road or something. I don't know, east of where 38 makes the tight bend over there. So I think that's where I'm going to be trying to sell some more things on Saturday. So it'll be a good weekend. Oh, and not a lot going on. A lot of personal business going on, appointments and things, and really enjoying the summer. We've been in the water a lot this summer and on the boat, and working around outside. So it's pretty nice, but I'm tired most of the time. So have to try to get a little more rest. But other than that, I'm going to make this my last. I don't know how long you guys can hang in here, but this will be my last. I'm going to say goodbye. Got some other things to do downstairs with the family, and I will be thinking about y'all. Matt, I did see you on the internet. There was a YouTube about fixing your kilowatt, or fixing your kW. So you didn't illustrate much of what you had to do, but you showed the radio on the air and it was working on HF. So I found that to be interesting. And other than that, not so much. Everybody have a good rest of the week. Be careful out there. I think it will rain eventually. And I'm CXK73 all for now. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Carol. We'll say 7-3 to you. And yeah, one of the things about AM is that as long as we're really on the same frequency, you should be able to hear both of us just fine. Though that can be confusing. And you made me realize how tired I am. Been awake for almost 24 hours. Had a long day at work. And I guess a strange day at work. We learned today that one of my coworkers decided to take leave of this world on his way home from work the day before. So that made things kind of interesting. That KW is a radio made by KW Electronics of Dartford, England. And I did not anticipate having it completely fixed anytime soon, so that is why I didn't elaborate too much on it. I had temporarily paralleled in some electrolytic capacitors in the power supply. That radio has been in pieces on my bench for I don't even know how long, maybe 8 years, because I bought some capacitors for it and I made a huge mistake when I ordered them. I ordered every single one of them wrong, and I ended up using those in other radios, and I never got around to buying the right ones. And so I found miscellaneous capacitors that were close enough in my stash, and I stuck them in there just to make that video, just to power up the radio and make sure that it still works before investing in capacitors. And I have since then bought and installed proper capacitors. But there was something else, I should have wrote it down, something else I found wrong with the radio. I tried making contact one time with a TX guy who could not understand my U uniform no matter what letter I gave him as a phonetic. I don't know what the issue was there. He had a thick accent from wherever it was he was from. I don't recall exactly. But he could not grasp that U uniform for anything, which was really frustrating. But after that, I tuned around a little bit and I found something wrong with the radio, and I can't remember what it was. I guess I'll have to try it out again and see. The tuning dial on there is I should do a video just on that tuning dial. It's a very strange thing. It's one knob with 3 speeds. It's got a transmission. When you turn it really slow, it's just by friction. It moves the dial really, really slow. If you turn it medium fast, it picks up friction on a different surface and turns it about 1-to-1. And if you turn it really fast, it centrifugally engages a gearbox, which sends you shooting all the way across the band, which is really cool. But something in there is loose, so that it doesn't exactly operate like it should. It does work, but not exactly right. And it has a lot of backlash, which makes tuning around extremely difficult. But it does have what we call RIT, but what they call IRT. So I typically will tune in close enough and then use that the rest of the way. And it's funny because, you know, being British, they use the letters in a different order than we do, probably French influence. So it's incremental receive tuning. And they avoided that unfortunate transmit incremental tuning abbreviation that nobody wants to use on a radio here, very simply by having incremental transmit tuning, ITT. That radio is an absolute joy to operate. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so different. The first time I saw one, I had to have it, and I couldn't get the one that I saw, but I found one shortly thereafter on QRZ, and that's this one. I think I paid $150 for it, including shipping. Don't quote me on that. It might be way more than that, but that's what I remember was $150. And I'll never forget it because it came from Canada, and the guy that sold it to me was pretty sad. He had not shipped anything across the border in a very long time, and he greatly underestimated the cost of shipping. So he emailed me and said he lost his shirt on the deal. So I did compensate him. I don't remember how much, but I did give him something extra because I knew I was getting it for nothing. That radio is designed like a Collins, except that it has capacitive tuning, which makes it not like a Collins, but it has a mechanical filter. Only it doesn't use a Collins mechanical filter. It uses a KW manufactured filter, which has a completely different input and output impedance from a Collins filter. And these filters are very, very fragile. It's an absolute miracle that this radio still works, especially having been shipped from Canada, and especially because for some reason it takes a lot of mechanical stress here. It seems like that radio is always getting knocked off the shelf. It doesn't fall very far, but still it's far enough that that mechanical filter, from what I've seen in other people with their radios, it's just a miracle that this one still works. And if that ever quits working, I don't know what I'll do about it. People have rebuilt them with very poor success, and And other people have tried to impedance match a Collins filter, which ends up with some losses. So I don't know. Anyway, we are at the bottom of the list. Let's go back to the top of the list. And I think I'm going to call this the 7-3 round, because I am starting to realize how tired I am. But please don't think you have to be short. Just talk as long as you want. And we'll send it to Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thanks, Matt. KC9UDX, W9JCC. And yeah, the Collins filters are very lousy. I have a few of them in the 7584, and a friend of mine came over once to get an AM filter cruised for his A4, and I gave him a IF can out of an old transistor radio to put across there, and the gain through that thing was just phenomenal. You had to completely detune the IF can. Made the bandwidth about twice as wide. It's like around 12 kilohertz, but it worked just great. And I did hear Gary mention about his Chester that he got the crystal from, and 15 meters. I must be I'm probably looking at the wrong time. Got the antenna pointed the wrong direction. I usually pointed toward Europe, and I'll come down here around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and they're probably sleeping then. And not hearing too much from the East Coast, so that's probably what's going on. Okay, I'll say 73 is good hearing everybody. Signal reports here pretty good, except I had a little trouble with Gary, but everybody else I could copy fine. Carol was 06, Jim was 35/9, Steve 20/9, Matt 35/, Dave about an S6, and Carol about an S6 there. So 73 is all good here, everybody, and we'll tell you about the net, W9JCC, close.
All right, thank you, Frank. I'll say 7-3 to you. And fine business on the Collins. It was just a couple of years ago that Collins finally quit manufacturing those filters, which is a real shame. It was tempting to buy up a bunch of them when they said they were going to stop making them. But I really don't have anything that I would use them for, unless I had to scramble something together for this KW. And the only reason you can't hear Gary very well is his microphone. He's got a astatic D104 like I've got, only his element is worn out. So we have to, we'll figure something out for that. I'm sure Gary will come up with something. If not, we'll find a way, one way or another. Speaking of which, Gary, we'll see if you're still there on the 7-3 round W9TOF from KC9UDX. All right, not hearing Gary. We'll go next to Dave. Dave, it's your turn on the 7-3 round WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, it's almost surprising, I guess, to me that Collins kept making the filters as long as they did. I'm not sure how many of their own current receivers were using any of those. Carrying big things on the bus. Well, I grew up in the middle of town on 28th and National. We did not have a car. I once carried an Ampex reel-to-reel tape recorder home on the bus, and when I upgraded from novice, I bought a Kenwood receiver and transmitter. I had gotten the receiver I think my uncle took me over to AES one day and got that. But then I went to get the transmitter a couple of months later on the bus, carried that home on the bus. That took up the rest of the seat next to me, in fact. And there is no way I could even attempt to carry either one of those things any appreciable distance today. The signal for the other guys that came in later, Carol was way down this month from what I recall in the past. Jim was, I could tell he was in there, but that was about it. And Steve, of course, if I had a real meter in this radio, it's all visual on the screen. Of course, the real meter would probably be bending around. So, anyway, there's the stories there. We'll see some of you guys Saturday at the picnic. And don't worry about if you don't bring anything. I always make sure there's a tip jar out there, so there's no problem with that. There's always tons of food. In fact, usually at the end of the day, it's like, who wants to take this? Because a lot of things that people bring, they don't take back any of the leftovers. Anyway, 73 to everyone that's still listening out there. And it's great to keep this thing going, Jack. Always good for, something different instead of the, all the mainstream stuff. Anyway, with that 73.2 off, this is WP9 BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. Say 7.3 to you. And I'm not totally surprised about Collins doing that. Up until everybody started making everything in China, U.S. companies, a lot of them would carry spare parts for products they made for 100 years. I know that from buying stuff in industry. And I remember everybody saying that it was only 2007 or 2008 when Harley Davidson got rid of all their machinery for making all the motors they made over the years. Whenever they discontinued making a motor, they just put the machines off to the side, still operational, and they could make parts for old motors forever until then. The one thing that I always think is interesting, I don't know why I think this, but if you remember, all of the farms that aren't around here anymore used to always have a windmill out in front with a water pump. And those windmills were all, made 100 years ago or more. And that company is still in business, still making the exact same windmills the exact same way. And they are price adjusted for inflation in such a way that they are unaffordable. But they still do make them exactly the same way. And with that, we'll go to Steve. It's your turn on the 7.3 round, N9 FSE. I think you're the last one, so take it away, Steve.
From windmills to old goldfish, what a great net. Sometimes they get some of the sealed, poorly sealed ones that get So, and since they got to come out anyway, I just take the big pliers, rip the top off them, knock the little metal ceramic and metal pieces out of there, and then I can grab each plate that makes up the filter and desolder it pretty quickly, efficiently, cleanly, and safely. So I like that kind of deal. And the newer radios, they're sort of SDR based, and they don't even have that IF filter in there anymore, so they're even a little more rugged. And I'm looking across the 706 at the high turret here, so I got the message for the net on west side, and also 3155, the DMR of Wisconsin reflector, but there was no takers there or questioners, but 10 minutes or so later there were a couple of hams talking. Good, so I got the headphones on, so I'm just focusing on this stuff. Hopefully we'll see a multitude out at the picnic and or the Swamp Fest, and if Gerald, if you're still listening, I can, if you don't get to herb, I can get some stuff to herb where they're efficiently, or over short order of time. So all is off for the night. Great net. Hope everybody has a good time with this, because that's good enough for me to drag myself over here and play instead of going straight home. So 73 everyone, and I hope it's clean, cooler on the radio and working a little nicer. Back to that. Make sure I still got a little bit of power on the meter, which I do. So ECNEX in the class, this is NIFSC. Over.
All right, thank you, Steve. And we did lose quite a bit of that, but I think I got the gist of everything. And, of course, if you're interested to hear what happens, you can probably tomorrow morning go back and watch the video. YouTube is kind of weird about that. Like right now, you could rewind and watch the whole video, but as soon as I stop sending the stream, then they take it offline until it's actually published complete. Usually takes anywhere from half a day to a day. Although I haven't paid attention in recent years, maybe they've gotten faster at that. I guess I don't really watch it. But you talk about the SDR-based radios being more rugged, and the first thing that comes to my mind is that's temporary. An old mechanical filter, if it survives, will last a lot longer than a software-based radio in the long run. But in the meantime, the software one is more rugged. And I will have to make sure to use the fan on this radio next month. That really helped. This fan is I ripped it out of an old PC power supply, and it's a pretty lazy fan. It doesn't move a whole lot of air, but it really does keep this radio cool. And it did make a huge difference keeping it operating here. But with that, in 10 minutes I will remember all of the other things I forgot to say. Otherwise, I will say this concludes the 2 a.m. net. Feel free to rag true on this frequency after my transmission. I don't think anybody will be left around. Steve, don't forget to bring that crimper next month. We will meet again on the 12th of September. And that means it's getting late in the year. Until then, this is KC9UDX73, and good night.
Radio allows. Yeah, I'll have to remember that. It could be a heat issue too, so I'll have to bring the fan in as well, but I'm totally distracted, but hopefully we'll see everybody at a picnic nearby, but I'm just time to wrap it up. I've got some off the rails myself.
Well, you're probably right. I think you've got a heat and a connection issue. It really does sound like a little bit of both. So I do encourage you to listen to yourself on the video. You'll see what I mean. But hopefully we will see you Saturday. We'll see. 7-3 from KC9UDX.